Namaskar. Today, very interesting topic. In this Better Life Academy, which is brought to you by Karmyog for 21st Century, and specifically the program on this Fit for Life program where we talk about sadhana, deep committed practice, daily routines. The process for the sadhana involves a lot of different elements, and we have discussed this. Now, one of the things that is an inherent part of this sadhana is something that we are going to discuss today, but it is not just part of this sadhana. It is not even part of any, not essentially just a part of any other sadhana, it's just a part of life. Life itself is made up of this particular thing that we are going to discuss today, this particular issue. Everything in life, every moment of life, if you really notice carefully, you will find this particular aspect or this particular issue coming up. What is this issue? Irrespective of whether you believe in sadhana, believe in this practice, that philosophy, that ideology, or whatever, or not, whatever it is, you will find this particular aspect creeping into your life all the time. What is it? Well, it's the issue of give and take. We always use this kind of a term or this kind of a notion of giving and taking. Anything that we do, there is a give and take involved, we say. Well, connected with this, and that's this issue of giving and taking, give and take, is what we're going to understand a little more deeply today. Because life itself is made up of this give and take exchange. Now, in order to understand give and take a little more coherently, a little more deeply, we need to understand two other terms: acceptance and rejection. Accept and reject. Sometimes we can also call it acceptance and sacrifice. Now, what are the differences between giving and sacrificing? What is the difference between giving and rejecting, sacrificing and rejecting, taking and accepting? If you take something and accept something, what is the difference? What is it that we are talking about? Well, I'm sure it's very easy today to quickly Google and get the dictionary meaning differences and all that. But really, we are going to talk about the difference in terms of our own experience, our own insights, our own felt experiences. So, in order to really understand the difference, let me point out to a certain, very, very subtle and very kind of gentle and yet a mammoth kind of a difference that exists between two cultures. Well, I have seen both these cultures very closely because I've grown up in one, and then I've actually gone out and studied and spent a lot of time in the other. One, talking about the Eastern cultures, more Oriental cultures, like I've grown up in India, and then I've spent a lot of time in the West, in specifically in US and other countries, more modern, developed countries. Now, one thing that I noticed immediately, a main difference in these cultures, is whenever there would be a class, or whenever there would be a meeting, or whenever there would be any kind of an occasion, before it would start, in India, the language used for people is, everyone would be told, the announcement would be made, we would never say, please take your seat. No. The announcement is always, please, I'm first, actually, let me first say it in the Indian languages. It's called Asan Grahan Kijiye. Asan Grahan Kijiye. Asan means posture. Grahan means accept. So it's always announced before the start of any meeting or any occasion. Just before it has to start, the announcer says, Asan Grahan Kijiye, means accept a posture. Now, this is clearly not what is said in the West. In the West, we are always told, please take your seat. Kindly take your seat. Here the announcement is, kindly accept a posture. Now, asan, we know, is a very important element of yoga, the yogic traditions. Now, yoga has kind of Ashtanga yoga, if you go into, has kind of 8 limbs. Ashtanga, 8 anga means limbs, so 8 limbs. It starts with yam niyam, primarily the do's and don'ts of life, and then it goes on to the third one is asana. Then comes pranayam, then of course pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi, which kind of talk about the external things that can be seen easily and some of the more internal, more subtle practices. So more gross practices and subtle practices. Gross practices which involve the body and the breathing and all that are the first 4, whereas the more subtler practices are the next 4. The pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. The 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th limbs are more of the more passive or the more inactive limbs, whereas the active limbs, action oriented limbs, in our languages it is called kriyatmak, kriya, active, action oriented, as yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, whereas the dhyanatmak, more meditative, the more passive are the ones which are pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. When in West it has also become popular as yoga and meditation. Yoga and meditation. Now in India also people know yoga and meditation more than Ashtanga yoga or all the yogic elements, all the 8 elements, etc. Most people know yoga and meditation because, as you know, modernity kind of dominates tradition in many ways. So those have become more ubiquitous, more popular, those terminologies, but they really refer to traditional terminologies of kriyatmak and dhyanatmak. Yoga is kriyatmak, action oriented so called, and meditation, when they say, is more dhyanatmak or passive or less action oriented in sense of bodily action. But coming back to our topic, as I was saying, we hear this announcement, asan grahan kijiye, means accept a posture. Now, asana is the 3rd limb of yoga, and even Patanjali Rishi, the great sage Patanjali, who actually codified Ashtanga yoga or the yogic practices in a very coherent and a great manner, he defined asana as sahaj sukham asanam. Sahaj means easy, sukham means comfortable. So he defined posture or asana thus. He said, what is a posture? A posture, an acceptable posture really. An asana is an posture that you have accepted. Which is a posture that you can accept? You can accept a posture only when you find comfort and ease in that posture. Which means in your skin, in this bones, in these muscles, in this body, and in this mind, if you find comfort and ease, that means you have accepted that asana. If you don't find comfort and peace, you will try to find comfort and peace, and you will change your posture. And that is called asthir. Sthir is still, grounded. Asthir is not still. You're fidgety. You're trying to find something. You're not at peace with yourself. See, this question of acceptance, how we are trying to understand the whole issue of acceptance versus taking. Take a seat. Accept a posture. Accept a posture means you are accepting your own self. Now I want to give a very small example here. Hiccups. Hiccups, they are kind of uneasy and uncomfortable when you are plagued with hiccups. So this is from my personal life, my own personal experience, this example. So I was very prone to hiccups even as a child, as I was growing up. Very often, anything would happen hiccups would be my first symptom in many cases. And then there are these, ways by which, of course, in those days it wasn't popping a tablet for every hiccup, but there were things that people would tell me, my elders, parents, anyone, would kind of advise. They would say, okay, if there's a hiccup going on, sometimes you would say you smell the cow dung or you smell the ground. That was a way to get over with it. Sometimes you would say you drink water or hold your breath, or you just shift your mind, suddenly think of, give a startle. Any of these things, sometimes they worked. I mean, many times they worked. But I wasn't healed of the problem. This problem remained. Every time the symptom would come up, we would do some of these things and something would work. But later on, as I progressed in my own practices, in the sadhana, in these practices that we talk about, I came to a spot where this problem got healed. And I'll share with you how it happened. It happened, it's a very small thing. It's not a healing from cancer or a healing from a major disease or a major life-threatening problem. I was, set in life. It was a simple thing, but it was kind of, bothering. But it got completely healed because now, first of all, the hiccup problem has reduced to almost negligible. That even in those times when, if at all, the hiccup comes, what happens is I just have to accept the hiccup. I have learned how to accept that discomfort. And that discomfort, on acceptance, it becomes comfortable. I'm comfortable with the hiccup. And slowly I find that problem, if it was a problem to begin with, it just goes away, it dissolves. I am talking about hiccups, which is clearly a physiological, sometimes you would say everything is psychosomatic in that sense, psychological, physiological, neurological. I'm sure all of these are involved in a symptom like hiccup. All of these things get solved very easily just by acceptance of the discomfort. So I'm comfortable even in that discomfort. I'm easy. As I do that, I see that the hiccups have stopped. Without any drinking of water or holding your breath or smelling a cow dung or getting a startle, any of those things. It's a very eloquent way to handle that situation, that discomfort. Acceptance. You might say, take a pill, take a particular kind of an intervention. That's taking. But accepting is primarily accepting your own self. Now the hiccup was part of me then. I was the hiccup. And if I can accept myself as whoever I am, then it becomes there is a healing property in that. So acceptance has this healing property, which is why in all of our practices, in this Fit for Life practices, we talk about accepting so much. We always mention accept Padmasana. We don't say now do Padmasana. No. Accept Padmasana. Accept Shavasana. Accept this. Accept that. In our practices, we mention this. And because this satsang session, is primarily about understanding in a deeper manner, what is going on in the practices. Because without the practices, this satsang is nothing, has no meaning. So today we talked about one of those things which is always included in our practices, and you might have wondered why are we saying this, what it really means. So today we have addressed that. Hope it made some sense to you. That's all for today, friends. Take it easy and take care. That's all from Better Life. Bye for now. Namaskar.